Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 10th Gruber Wired Hour. My name is Mark Beach.
And I am John Dotson, and welcome. We have a great show put together for us today.
Yes.
How was your weekend, Mark?
It was good. It was, grandkids' birthday parties and all that kind of stuff, all that jazz.
Yeah, we had the grandkids over, had lots of family over, wife and the family made tamales. It was great.
Yum.
Had a
Did you
great
get all your
time.
Christmas shopping done? Is it all done?
I think we're done, but every time I turn around, the wife seems to be buying some more. So lots of wrapping. I got lots of, you can see here, paper cuts all over from all the gift wrapping we're doing. So it's going to be great.
You know, I just bought the box of the bags from Costco, the gift bags.
Yeah.
So, that's
Nice and easy.
I'm not doing Christmas wrapping this year.
Just here you go. Here's a bag in a box.
Yeah, I know. There's a Christmas gift bag, so we're good. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Yep.
So lots of new toys out there. Have you seen a lot of the technical advancements in these toys? I mean, just what used to be simple for us, like a Rubik's Cube,
Yeah.
now it's like, whoa.
I would bet money that the kids still play with the boxes, though.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's the
No
fun
matter what
part.
we bought, it was the box that was the most interesting thing.
In fact, really quick, I remember when we were a child growing up, our first computer our parents bought for us, it was a Laser 128, around the same time the Commodore came out.
Right.
And so here we are as kids, and we're all excited. We see these big boxes in the living room. We get up, and we open them up, and oh, it's a box, and we don't know what a computer is. Where's the toys?
Right, right.
So it wasn't until probably a few days after that when Dad and Mom set up the computer, and then we got to actually see what it was, and what a change that was for us in our environment.
Yeah. I remember dinking around with my first computer. I think I was maybe 16 or something, and had one of those Radio Shack TRS 80s with the tape backup, or that's how the data was stored. So you had a little cassette tape,
Yeah.
that you would normally have music on, right? And you hit record, and then you dump the program into the tape. So that's how you read it back to the computer later.
Yeah, is Radio Shack even around anymore?
I don't think so.
I think they have an online store, maybe.
They might. No, somebody bought the name, so
they?
it's still
Okay.
it's around, but it's not what it was. Yeah, somebody bought the
Wild
name.
and crazy. And then, of course, the years later, we got the Star Wars toys,
Yeah.
and they had a little button you push, and a little laser light would come on and make some noise. And, pretty crazy. So we're just seeing that go.
Speaking of Star Wars, so kind of we're talking about technology. I remember the first time I saw a www dot was on a big billboard for one of the Star Wars movies.
Oh, yeah, which one?
Remember? I knew you're going to ask that, and no, I don't remember that. I think it might have been the third one, if I'm not mistaken.
The third original movie?
Yeah, third original. I mean,
Okay.
there's 1 through 3 is still. I know they call them 5 through 7, or 4 through 6, but that's one.
Yeah, that
one,
would be
1, 2, 3.
Return of the Jedi, I think.
Yes, I think
number
so.
3.
Yep.
And, the one thing they showed throughout the Star Wars universe was a lot of alien race.
Yes.
Lots of different aliens out there.
Boy, that's going to segue us all the way back to where we're going, isn't it?
I know, exactly. So, hey, Jesse, you want to go ahead and pop up that picture? Back in 1947, the Roswell Crash. Do you remember that? Were you around for that?
That's slightly before my time.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a smidge.
But it was that particular moment where we saw all the, what would you call them, conspiracy theories start coming out about alien life, and what led to what we could consider today technological, I can't even say that word today, but advancement in technologies
Right.
coming out of that particular moment in time.
Right. It was shortly after that, the transistor became a big thing, because before that it was all tubes.
That's
Right.
correct. Vacuum tubes.
Right.
Correct.
And then the transistor technology, so miniaturization technology, came about after that. And 20 years after that weather balloon crashed in Roswell, we're circling the moon.
Yeah.
So
amazing. I know. And then we had from there, Sputnik was the first satellite put into space.
Yeah, it was. So the space race was kind of interesting, because we pretty much lost every first until we got to the moon.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and we got the one that counted.
But some of the first we came across was, like IBM. For instance, what was it? In 1952, IBM's first commercially available scientific computer was out there on the marketplace.
Right.
And I think we actually have a picture of that as well. There we go. Take a look at that.
So a lot of you remember 2 weeks ago, Mark and I delved into kind of from the beginning, from the abacus. And I think this might be where we left off was getting into, more contemporary technology.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and back then, a lot of this happened to be mechanical technology and compared to what we have today.
Right. They're not, they were. And for those of you who don't know, mechanical means, levers and gears and switches and all that, and not the electronics that we know today.
Yeah, and then that progressed and changed, like you said, the miniaturization of the chips, that evolved coming out of this era.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so then it kind of came, high-level programming. The language changed. The first real language was it Fortran?
Yeah, Fortran. And shortly followed thereafter by COBOL. And my dad actually programmed in Fortran and COBOL. And these instruction sets were, for any of you who've watched Apollo 13, in those movies, they would say noun 5, verb 12 when they were programming the computer, rather than, saying the words or whatever. But it would be all that instruction set was hard coded in the machinery or in the computers back then. And so these computer or programming languages kind of evolved into these instruction sets that were codable, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow, what a change.
Yeah.
And that led to being able to program into some of the first video games like Space Crawl.
I never played that.
I didn't either. I played Pong when that came around.
I remember when Pong came out. So this is way back in the olden days when, at Shea and Scottsdale Road, there were, a few places there, and there was a place called Jerry's Fruit Market, which would be maybe about 500 feet west of Scottsdale Road on Shea on the south side of the street. And my brother took me there one time to show me this new video game that was sitting in Jerry's Fruit Market, which was pretty cool.
That's cool. What game was that?
I think it was Pong.
It was Pong at the time.
Yeah.
And then came Centipede and all those great ones.
Yeah, Space Invaders.
Space Invaders, yes.
Let's not forget that.
In fact,
dropped a lot of quarters in the Super Fun in Paradise Valley Mall as a teenager.
I think these teenagers know what quarters are in video games that
way. The quarter was an incentive to get good at playing because you get to drag out the game, and then they caught on and started charging you more to keep going.
Yeah, but then now today with the advancement of especially the internet. Prior to the internet, we had was it pronounced ARPANET?
ARPANET.
ARPANET. It was developed by the government, U.S. government, to basically go out there as I believe it started out as a defense contract,
right?
To start linking together. Started with universities and so forth, and the scientific nature of things, trying to just do a lot of research and development.
Right. And I think we may have touched on that a little bit 2 weeks ago, but the dilemma was that say you're in an office, in a research lab, and they would have 3 different computers that would talk to there would be 3 different legs going to the different facilities or other labs to communicate with. And by creating this net, they were able to have one computer where they could access multiple points, because it was just basically each terminal was point to point up until then.
Back and forth. Okay.
Right.
So then you're able to share all that information.
Right. You take one computer and can communicate to different networks as opposed to one computer on each network.
Yeah. And then that transition eventually, what was the date that the actual internet, World Wide Web came around?
That was 91, I think.
91?
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Yep.
So then they kind of just used that as the background, basically, from what they had learned to progress and change that technology to go worldwide with it. So now the availability to get information in 91 just quadrupled, if not more than that.
Yeah. The idea of interconnectivity is now just taken for granted. I remember growing up, and my dad would talk about their first TV set, right?
Yeah.
Or how when he was a kid, he grew up listening to the radio and the story time on the radio and all that. And, you know, when I was growing up, he would fall asleep. They'd have a tape recorder in their bedroom, and he would play the old time radio program still when he'd listen to those when he went to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, you know, so when we tell our kids, oh, you know, when we were growing up, there was no such thing as a microwave or a VCR or even a thought of a cell phone or anything like that. Now it's taken for granted.
Oh, it really is. I remember my father got his first cell phone for business, and it was a big, lunky case. I mean, it was just a big brick.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
very limited on technology and what it could do, really.
I think that was the technical term for them, were bricks.
Yeah, it may have been at the time. Can you imagine lugging those around? Well, they did, but
Yeah. Well, and I remember at one of my early jobs, just feeling like I was something else when the boss decided he wanted to install a cell phone in my car so he could reach me no matter where I was. You know, and they were hardwired into the car just like they were hardwired into the wall at home.
yeah, right.
Yep. They weren't traveling with you. It was there. That was it.
Well, then, you know, business said, hey, we want to make sure we can contact you. So here's a pager. So
Right.
it went from the brick cell phone into a paging system, you know.
Yep.
So
It's crazy stuff.
did you ever have a pager?
I did. Yes, I was on the leash for many years. Yep.
But now that's gone all the way up to where we have, you know, modern day cell phones. So it's just about communication.
It is. And data, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. I mean, gosh, you stop and think about that first computer we were showing from IBM. Your modern day cell phone can handle millions much more data points than what that could have at that point in time.
Right. We've adapted. I mean, you know, we're so in touch with each other now. We get online, you know, like with the birthday parties this weekend, I'm able to take a bunch of pictures, share it, and the whole family can see what's going on. And, you know, it's just instant information. We're able to instantly involve people in whatever we're doing, whether it's business or personal.
Yeah, there's lots of information out there. And then the downside to this, I guess you could say some of that is people like to take advantage of that information as well.
Right. It's true. We have to protect our data, and we have to, you know, do things wisely.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You know, secure what you have out there, which is why we get these little emails all the time from work, you know, that,
Yep.
oh, we are offering Taylor Swift tickets the other day. Did you buy into that?
Spam. No. I wouldn't buy into it if it was legit. No offense to your Swifties out there, but, you know, I'm not in that camp.
You gotta be very careful. They have a strong fan base.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
Maybe we'll get more than a few comments then. I don't know, you know, although they might not be the comments we're looking for. And by the way, comments. So feel free while we're going live here to chime in and ask questions. If you have any, we'll be sure and answer them as best we can. But you know, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. We're up to 501 subscribers as of this morning. Yep.
Yeah, getting lots of views, lots of good feedback coming in.
We're rolling.
Thank you to everyone out there.
Thank you so much. Yes.
So, you know, another game changer in history is IBM came out, I think, with the first personal computer
Yes.
to use at home, correct?
Okay.
And that just gave people, again, the ability to bring that inside your own home.
I remember too buying. Now mine wasn't an IBM, but it was a Packard Bell, and I
Okay.
got it from Price Club, which was the precursor to Costco.
Costco, yep.
Yep.
They're not around anymore.
And that was an 86 computer, which was an 086. There wasn't a 286, 386. That was an 086. So yeah, with like 10 megabytes of RAM, and
So that was like pre-DOS.
yeah. It was no.
It
DOS
still operated on
no,
DOS?
yeah. But it was all text. You know, if you dialed in on the modem, you could be on chat boards, and trying to get an image on there was like pulling teeth, because again, they didn't, you know, the memory sticks were small, the hard drive capacity was 40 megabytes.
Oof.
I mean, you know, that's not even the size of a video file today. It's
For the time and place in history, though, that was amazing, as we would say.
Yeah, I felt like I was something else.
Yeah. And then what, 1981, MS-DOS was introduced? Was that since we got on that subject?
Yeah, DOS was 81. And that was the baseline for the Windows, so Windows 3.1 would come out later, but you learn DOS first. So I still
Correct.
drop to my DOS commands sometimes.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
I lost those a long time ago. In one year, out the other. And speaking of Apple, Apple came along with Macintosh.
I think we have a picture of that too, if I'm not mistaken, of the first Apple. It's labeled Image 12. There we go.
Look at that.
That is Apple One.
The very first.
Yep. Every chip was lovingly soldered into that board. And that was the precursor to what Apple is today.
That's something. Even the black and white monitor.
Yeah, I mean, we're not thankful enough for what we have today. I'll tell you that. There's just so much.
No, I mean, take a look at this on the board. He probably picked that board up out of his backyard to place this on.
Yeah. Oh, the plank. Yeah.
I mean, this is where thoughts, ingenuity come from.
Yes. And for those of you who are Napoleon Hill students or fans, thoughts are things. So, it takes the conceiving something and putting it into action to make it reality.
Yeah, and it goes back to probably the number one computer in the world is our own brain.
Yeah.
Sometimes we forget. We talk about technology, but all this technology came from here to begin with.
Right.
From someone, not me.
Yeah, if the human race was wiped out, I would not be able to create a new telephone. That's for sure.
Yeah, no.
Not even the basic one. We would suffer.
Yeah, for sure. So then that went through and became what? We got the Windows operating system like you were talking about. 3.0 came out in 1990.
Yes.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yes.
And boy, what a difference today compared to where it was.
Oh yeah.
They keep improving that system.
And at first it was a challenge to get programs to run at the same time. And we even had that issue with cell phones up until recently. There was two different kinds of networks you could be on, and one of them you could take phone calls or you could be on the internet, but you couldn't do both. And then the other one had the ability to run data and voice simultaneously. And so Windows kind of changed the game on being able to have different windows and different things running at the same time.
Yeah, that's very correct. And then it just keeps opening that field. We're seeing improvements on that all the time. I'm not sure what the next Windows operating system will be like.
We're on 11 right now, so I don't know.
We'll see what 12 brings.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yep.
So let's talk about other things we've seen. We got to the Windows 3, then we had to update Windows 95. And then along that road, DVDs came around.
Yeah, you didn't list Windows ME on here.
No, ME, yes.
For those of you who lived through that tragedy, we'll just leave it there.
Hey, we got some people chiming in here. Sam, is it Manlate? This great show, guys. Hey, thank you, Sam. We appreciate that. It also says black screens were the first gen computers. Windows did change everything.
And Harry's saying, very interesting, guys. I love the DOS games. The original Donkey Kong was a C jumping over O's.
That was so true. Remember that?
Yeah.
Sit there and you toggle back and forth between.
Thanks, Harry. Yeah.
I think these guys will show up in our other podcast for Power too.
Oh, do they? Cool. Remember the memory business spiking with Windows release since it ate so much memory? It did, didn't it?
Right. And
I remember that.
Then they had to create virtual memory to use disk space to also use as memory, because some of these programs were just memory hogs. It would completely use up system memory.
Yeah, just drain it.
Yep.
So yeah, like I said, we're coming back. We see the introduction of DVDs for a while in our history. Let's see, that was 1995 when those came out.
That's hard to believe it's been that long.
Been
It's almost 30 years.
But the amount of information to be stored on those was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, because it went from the floppy disk at the time into
CDs
to CDs
and then DVDs.
DVDs. So you saw that progression go over, and it's just amazing. Now we're into Blu-ray.
Yep.
You know, every so often you're going to see them switch the rays because why they need extra bandwidth.
Yeah, the storage capacity on so what they did was they would create these if you remember they'd be either single write discs or rewritable discs, and then they'd be single-sided or double-sided, so I use them for storage a lot of times in doing photography. Back then was there was those images chewed up a lot of disk space. So I would use that as my cold storage.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, the problem with a lot of those CDs, once we get into it, talking about that, once you touch them, got some of the oil on your fingers on those.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just didn't work as well.
Handle with care.
And then next, after the DVD revolution, we got into more USB. That came along and changed. Again, miniaturization, bringing everything down.
Yep.
More compact.
The USB too is such a useful technology. It continues to permeate the technology world. I mean, I just bought not too long ago a little. It's not a USB, but it plugs into my USB. But it was just a small solid state drive, but it was a terabyte.
Wow.
It was like $60-$70, something like that. I mean, it was
unbelievable,
just dirt cheap, and plugs in via USB, and I can have all of my stuff backed up pretty easily. I don't got to even hit the cloud with it. I can have a backup on me.
Just right there, terabyte, just on you at all times.
Yep.
Yeah, nice, compact. 1999 Wi-Fi was introduced.
Yes.
That's a game changer as far as technological advances in, communications industry.
Yeah, absolutely. The and I remember building a box, and they had these Linksys Wi-Fi cards. So you would insert a serial card inside the computer, and then you would plug this card in the back, and it looked slick. It was a little like plastic thing that stuck out with a little LED light, and it would tell you if you were connected, or they would flicker with the data.
Green and red light, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool. The little Linksys. That was one of my first Wi-Fi connection devices. All of them, none of them were native to the devices. You had to get something to plug in, or seat in a card in order for that to work back then.
Yeah, and it's amazing where we've gone with Wi-Fi, because I can't tell you, no matter where I'm at driving down the road, my phone wants to connect to another Wi-Fi system.
Yes. Yes.
So they're popping up everywhere you go.
That's the goal, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
To have it everywhere.
I mean, you can sit down and have your hamburger and check out your Wi-Fi.
Definitely.
See that all the time.
Yep. And then we went into Bluetooth.
Bluetooth, yes.
I remember when that first came out, I thought it was a little sus. I was like, well, what is this Bluetooth thing? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. We already got Wi-Fi. Why would we want to connect? And then I realized later exactly what it was for, which was a peripheral connection just for other connectivity objects on your person. So whether it was earbuds or earphones or like a watch or anything like that, you could connect your personal devices to your phone via the Bluetooth.
And yeah, exactly. And wireless technology is where they're heading with all of this.
Yep. And I know now with my laptop, my phone connects to my laptop via the Bluetooth connection, and it so if a phone call comes in, I can answer it on my computer rather than answering my phone, and I can respond to texts that way too.
Yeah, and it's crazy and wild, like I said, with your phone there. You can actually start your vehicle with your phone.
Yeah.
And a lot of other features that the smart cars have nowadays.
Right.
Just simply by using your phone.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy, I tell you.
Pretty soon it'll be able to ride a bicycle for you. Right?
No.
No?
No. But I understand the desire to jump off that ledge. But
I know.
you can ride your bike without going anywhere with the technology, with the the Pelotons and things like that. You got the screen, and you just look like you're going somewhere. Yep, there you go.
The Napster changed the music industry for a while.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was kind of fun, interesting at the time. We learned how to enjoy music in a new variety of ways.
That was the Wild West.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of pirating going on back then. A lot of pirating. But, it was, again, led into adoption because people got used to, when you get music for free, people are going to adopt the technology where you can get it. And then once that spigot was cut off and you had to start paying for stuff, right? Then they got used to receiving it in that mechanism. So it really did serve a great purpose, even though, a lot of people squawked. It created a rapid adoption of digital music platforms.
Oh, yeah, exactly to what we see today.
Right. Good stuff.
And then, of course, we all love gaming, right?
Yep.
So, PlayStation. I mean, it revolutionized gaming.
Yes. That took it to a whole new level. The graphics between that, the Xbox, because I remember, here's a lot of remember whens today, I guess. But, with the Nintendo and then the Super Nintendo.
Correct.
And, there's a bit graphics, right? Bit type graphics. And those were, but it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. But it kind of, again, primed the pump. People get used to having home gaming rather than having to go to the mall to play a game. And now you've got all these platforms that just launch, and the computer graphics are insane. The response time is insane, and people get used to it.
Yeah, and one of the things that incorporates into that nowadays is the use of artificial intelligence.
Right.
And where that's taking, gameplay to a different level.
Right, exactly. And because even back then you could play against the computer, you're doing Madden, you could play against the,
Yeah, but now the computer plays against you. I mean, it's a different scenario. They're hunting you down.
They're playing to win. No doubt.
We do have a special guest coming on here. The owner of our companies, Mr. Pete Gruber, is going to join us for the next half hour of this podcast. Welcome, Pete.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, Pete.
Hearing you guys talk about computers and playing games in in my previous life when I worked for Digital Equipment Corporation, there was a large DEC 10 mainframe over here on Union Hills and I-17, and I was repairing that type of stuff back then. This was like in the late 70s.
Okay.
But anyway, they had a chess game on this computer, and it was all black screen like you guys were talking about. The chess pieces were characters, like letters of the alphabet, and you have to remember what it was and all that. But I remember I got in trouble one time. I was playing chess at night when I got home on my dial-up modem. Do you remember those? They would chirp.
Yeah.
You were saying you tie up your phone line, right?
Yep.
So I finally figured out that not only could I play the computer and it always beat me, but I could learn how it was beating me by telling it to play self, PS.
Oh, wow.
What I didn't realize is when I was doing that, it was this computer was coming to a screeching halt, and they had batch processes at night they were trying to run. And anyway, I guess I was an early hacker. And, but
that chewed up the CPU, didn't it?
Oh, totally, yes. All right, got my headset. So I thought I would come in and talk to our the comm listeners about our company's insertion of artificial intelligence into our processes.
Yes.
And I know it's a hot topic right now, In fact, there are people that are saying that the businesses that are going to survive into the next decade are the ones that are learning to embrace AI, adapt, and utilize it.
Right.
Because it makes humans so much more powerful, right?
It does. It creates a baseline, I think, and where that bar is raised by that type of intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So anyway, I've got some examples for you how we're doing this. I was in the group meeting last week, and we were talking about the insertion of ChatGPT 3 on everybody's workstation.
Right.
And of course, now the next question is, well, how do we use it? What is it? What will it do for us, right?
Correct. That's a big question, really.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's understanding how, as a tool, can we use this?
Right.
So I'll give you some examples. In the social media team, we do a lot of videos here and a lot of video productions. And in order to do those, you have to write a script. You have to have some sort of a story that evolves with, fact checking and all of that. And what we began to realize is that AI really lends itself perfectly to this kind of activity. The old way of doing it was you hired a script writer, right? And spent lots of money, and they did lots of manual research, and even before the internet. And what AI is able to do is do all this for you.
Yes.
Now, it will hallucinate and it will lie. There was a lawyer that found that out the hard way.
Garbage in and garbage out, right?
Yeah. He was trying to cut corners and cut his costs of paralegals, so he used ChatGPT-4 to put a case together, and it turns out that some of the examples he used were completely fictitious, and he got fined. The judge actually
Of
fined him.
course,
wow.
yeah. Wasting the court's time. How dare he?
Yeah, but again, you're referring to the fact that the input that's coming out has been input by humans.
Yeah. It goes out, it scrubs the internet, and bogus information out there becomes part of its data set.
Yep.
So you have to be careful about that, or you have to at least do some fact checking yourself. But the places that we use it, and I gave some examples. Let's say that you've got a customer in your business that ordered some fiber cables, and he's got a job that's in process, and he gave you guys a good solid deadline, and we scrambled to get it done. And he says, I need these immediately, ship them overnight. And what happens? The shipper screws up. Right?
Yep.
They don't deliver overnight. It gets there 4 days later. His job is delayed, cost him money. He's got egg on his face with his customer. So we asked ChatGPT-4, write us a email or a letter to this customer describing what happened and what our corrective action is. And I'm telling you, the results are just phenomenal. What
Right.
it does. In the script writing portion, I still fancy myself a writer. And, but the problem is I'm OCD about writing. Every paragraph gets scrutinized, gets written and rewritten. And then I get a thesaurus and I search for the perfect word, a perfect analogy. And it takes way too long. So one of the social media guys, Jesse, he often says to me, just use ChatGPT-4.
Right.
And when I do, I run my stuff through it, and I say improve, and it improves on steroids. It is so much better. It's humbling. Now, I don't use it 100%. I mean, because I have an ego.
Yeah, right?
Pride of
No.
authorship. Yes, I get it.
But it is infinitely better at writing things like that because of the massive data set. And by the way, this is the gift of artificial intelligence. You and I have a certain amount of information stored in our cranium. It's
Right.
our life experiences, our job history, the memories, and all of that, which is human. AI, multiply that times hundreds of millions,
Right.
and you now begin to understand why it's so powerful. And it has instant access to this information.
Yeah. And what about the humanity side of it?
Well, there's a psychological element to the insertion of this kind of technology, as there is with any technology. Initially, people are terrified of it. They're afraid. It's going to take our jobs. And then they remember watching the Terminator movie. The robots are going to annihilate mankind. And then the arguments for that is, well, we've done a pretty lousy job of running this planet. Maybe at some point in time, AI will say, are these humans, these insects necessary? Maybe we need to get an exterminator.
Right.
Well, my vote on this is, and I'm what you would call a AI optimist. They're the doomsayers, and they're definitely a large faction. But my vote on this is anything that's infinitely smarter than we are is not going to subscribe to the same weaknesses that we have.
Right.
Yeah, no, true.
I asked AI the other day, a couple of weeks ago for a podcast, give me the primary reasons why mankind has been so successful evolving and running this planet. And you know what? It was almost biblical. it listed all of the emotions that prevent us from getting any further: greed, envy, jealousy, anger,
Right.
the things that actually make us kill other human beings,
Right.
And anyway, my vote on this is anything that's that bright is not going to be anything like humans. The thing that I always ask is when you hear the doomsayers, even Elon Musk, oh, AI is dangerous, you got to be careful, it could. But they never give you a concrete path why and how,
Right. Right.
But anyway, that's my vote on AI. We've got to learn to embrace it, adapt, and I think that mankind can finally get out of this mess that we're in.
Yeah, and it will imagine we will get there, and it's like any other tool that's introduced into the environment. It can be used for good, it could be used for bad. So you're always going to have those people out there that are negative and use it in a bad way.
The bad actors, they call them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've experienced, so my experience with AI so far, having seen it widely adopted in different programs, is so I have a video creator program, and they put in an AI bot in there, and so now you tell the AI bot what sequence, what you want to present in this video, and then it sets up all the slides. It sets up background images, background videos to kind of go along with the slide presentation, and then of course you have to edit it because it's not going to have your style. We, humans add the flair, we add the style to this, but it creates content very quickly. And then all it needs is a little tweak here and there, and boom, all set.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, it creates it within seconds, actually. You know, that script that I spent a week agonizing over.
Yeah.
Yeah, within 20 seconds, ChatGPT has got a better version than so it is sobering, it's somewhat humbling, all of that. So another example was we have customers, of course, and sometimes a particular account might have a couple of our account managers involved because there's so many people there, right? Well, this was a scenario where two different prices went to that customer.
Oh boy.
And of course, the people within their company are going to eventually talk and say, oh, you bought those wire managers from Gruber. Yeah, I just bought some last week. And the next question might be, what did you pay for them? Well, if there's a price discrepancy, that's not good business.
Right.
So we asked ChatGPT, how would you handle this kind of a scenario? And again, what it came back with was a flawless strategic execution and communication. And what I find about ChatGPT 4 or BART or Grok or any of these large language models, they are so smart. They actually take our feelings into consideration, and they will tailor a strategic type of communication that prevents your customer from getting angry, defensive, feeling guilty. And I'll give you an example of that. In the service group, Gruber Power Services, we have service agreements or contracts, which is nothing more than a service agreement on a piece of equipment that guarantees the customer that we will come out and repair it for free for a yearly fee. It's like a extended warranty contract, right?
Okay.
So these customers typically renew with us year after year after year if they're happy with our service. Well, we had a customer that did not renew. They found another vendor that was cheaper, lower price. So we sent ChatGPT 4. We tasked them with providing a response to this customer. And again, it took into consideration that as soon as we address it with the customer, he's going to feel guilty because he knows he's been doing business with us for 7 years. He didn't give us a chance to bid on it. And his immediate reaction is going to be guilt. And then they get defensive and they shut down. They're not open to further communication, or at least it's tainted in some way. What ChatGPT 4 did was it actually outlined the strategic communication steps, taking that into consideration. Again, this is what's called augmentation, where you have a highly experienced mentor in your corner that can guide you on how to maneuver these kinds of political pitfalls with customers.
Right.
Yeah. What about problem solving?
Problem solving. Okay, that is another good one. In the Tesla repair business, Gruber Motor Company, we have a number of divisions here.
Right.
Com, GPS, GMC. Got to put a plug in for all of those. We have a knowledge base, which is nothing more than a collection of symptoms in cars versus solutions that we've found. And what's handy is having a technician, mechanic, or whatever be able to access that so that if they see a symptom in a car, they can see how Jack fixed it last year. What component did they replace? What were the parameters surrounding that? Well, this is a perfect tool for artificial intelligence because it can manage such large data sets. Well, about 3-4 weeks ago, Elon Musk released for the first time all of the Tesla Roadster intellectual property.
Oh, wow.
Service documentation, owner documentation, their knowledge base, in other words, symptom versus resolution. And he posted it out there. It was in a combination of PDF files, some spreadsheets. There was some GitHub stuff. And around the same time, actually a few days later, OpenAI announced that they were now providing the ability to create personalized chatbots, personalized LLMs.
Right.
So we fiddled with it for a bit and found that you could feed our knowledge base information and Elon's information into a custom GPT, generative pre-trained transformer. I don't know why they call it that, but anyway, that's what GPT stands for.
They got to sound slick.
Yeah, right.
It sounds official. It sounds pretty technical, right? So we did this. We fed this into our own personalized GPT. We're still polishing it, but what an engineer can do now, and this is really cool because there's another capability that came along. ChatGPT 4 now is able with an application to handle voice. So a technician literally could be by his toolbox, by the car. He sees the error code pop up on the vehicle display screen, and he can talk to his phone and say, ChatGPT 4, what does this error code mean in this Tesla Roadster? And it will spit out all of that information and guide that mechanic or that technician on how to repair that. And not just our intellectual property that we've accumulated for years, but all of the Tesla stuff that's been accumulated since the Roadster came out or even before.
Wow.
Oh, that's a game changer.
It is.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea of the capabilities of artificial intelligence. And the other thing that's amazing, I think Jesse will agree with this, at the pace that it's evolving.
Right.
It seems like every month there's a new feature like this app, the voice capability. And then, of course, you've got new large language models, LLMs they call them. You've got Grok, which is now the Twitter version of the OpenAI version, the GPTs. And what's different about Grok and the other large language models is it scrubs Twitter.
Uh-huh.
So when you ask it for some information, you'll actually get quotes out of Twitter where people have addressed that, answered it, and unlike the other ones, which are out there harvesting everything that's on the internet, scrubbing websites and. So
wow.
Anyway, to answer your question, how do we use it in the repair business? Let's see what else I've got here. Okay, so Bids, one of your account managers in your call center has been using ChatGPT when he gets bids, for services, product, or whatever. And he has this one customer that kind of merges everything together and makes it a bit complicated to find the parts that they're really trying to order. What you can do with ChatGPT, like I was doing with my scripts, is you can feed that into the large language model, and then it's all about prompts. Prompt engineering, by the way, is going to be a big business here in the future. But if you correctly phrase your request, it will do exactly what you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
So what he says basically is, take this information, it's a bit jumbled, And he says, you have to be polite. In his world, I never am. I just kind of do it, you know? He says, please. And he thinks he gets a better result by doing that. Boy, that almost makes AI human, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It does.
Yeah,
That's
Exactly.
scary. You have to consider the emotion.
Yeah, I have to tell it to be meaner in some of my stuff because it's not. It's way too polite. You know, I'm not looking for. I'm just looking for direct.
Right. So what he ends up doing, it feeds it in there, and he says it can organize it, it can sort it. He then asks it to organize it based on part numbers, description, and it does a wonderful job.
Wow.
And you know, this is exactly what I was doing, and still still am. We have a number of weekly podcasts. By the way, those of you interested in artificial intelligence, every Wednesday morning. On this channel, no, not this channel, the GMC channel. Sorry, you guys are calm.
Yeah.
At 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, we do an artificial intelligence podcast. And what we do is we collect the news for the last week. We then express opinions about it, any data regarding applications, if we've used it, what success we've had, how to maximize its output. And initially, this started as a Sunday morning effort with Jesse and I coming in. And we thought, let's try a few and see how it pans out. And we kept getting subscribers.
Right.
Sometimes we'd have more subscribers than the local Christian church down the road here, you know. Felt like a pastor some days, you know. But people are intensely curious about this. So we were debating whether going into the holidays, we wanted to chew into our Sundays with family events and everything. And finally we decided, you know, we've got such a large audience, and sometimes it's 1,700, 1,800 people that show up during the podcast. We thought, let's do this Wednesday morning. So for those of you interested in learning more about AI or sharing, because this is collaborative, you know, what were your experiences? How can you use it better? That type of thing. Join us Wednesday morning. So getting back to what I had started to tell you was, with these podcasts that we do, there's so much news. It's like information overload.
Right.
So what I began to do was I would take these long, lengthy articles and run them through ChatGPT, and the prompt was very simple. Create a brief description of this article, extracting the salient points in a bullet type or a numbered sequence.
Great.
And now it saved me enormous amounts of work because I didn't have to read the whole thing, first of all.
Right.
And it would pull out, you know, the most important talking points. And it gave me something that, you know, saved a lot of time, because I'm doing literally a dozen of these articles on every podcast.
Yeah,
Wow.
a lot of information. A lot. In fact, I believe we used that to print out our copies today.
Oh, you did?
We did. So
You did,
yes,
yeah.
I had gone into a couple weeks ago to ChatGPT, and I asked it a few questions. One of them, you know, was give me 30 bullet points on the development of computer networking technology, right? Give me 50 talking points on the history of computer technology. There's like, I have like 10 of these because I was all over the map. I'm like, okay, well, if it's going to do that, then it can do this. And so I developed all these lists for talking points that are just great. Makes it right, cuts it right to the chase. And take it, don't take it. We can go down the list. We can skip around, whatever, but it gives us really good focal points that can elicit conversation.
Right. So, so you've got your personal paralegal.
Yes.
Yeah. And that works with us talking to our customers as well.
Mm-hmm.
We can do the same format when needed.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's such a high adoption rate right now on the technology partner sector. So, I mean, even if you've noticed in browsers, all of a sudden, Chat GPT results or AI results started appearing within like Google searches and Bing searches, things like that, where it gives you the option at the top when you do your search, and it says, you know, here's the AI version of that, or ask AI, you know, to search that. So there's just a tremendous adoption rate on the part of the tech sector to really hone in on their areas of specialty. And I think GMC doing that is a great example of how a infinite database of information, customers, issues, tech reports, all that is just such a practical example of how it takes the complex and puts it right in your hand. Yep.
Totally. Yeah, they say that AI will eventually replace Google.
Yeah, I could see that because it's with Google you have to sort through so much to get your point, right?
Yeah.
Which is why Google has their own little chatbot there, or AI bot that that they're working on. But yeah, but whereas this gets right to it, you ask a very pointed question, you ask for a specific thing, and you actually get it, and no dinking around links and no that's an old article and that's out of date information. No, it grabs what you're looking for. Yep. Good
Well,
stuff.
real quick, guys.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I want to insert something here. I'm gonna pull up this image that you guys had. It was IBM's first computer. Actually, which was the other one that you guys?
The Mac. That was image 12.
Mac. 12, you said? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 12.
Use that one. That's a good example. Pull this back up real quick.
Oh yeah.
So Pete, you didn't see that. We were talking about this earlier a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What you're looking at right there, we haven't even gotten to that part of AI yet.
Right.
Yeah, it's something, isn't it? Wow.
If you want to think about what AI will become and how powerful it is right now, we're not even to the phase of like an Apple One yet.
So it's baby steps. We're on our first baby steps here.
Yeah.
There's a black and white monitor. There's a homemade power supply. See the transformers off to the right there?
Right.
And it looks like TTL chips mounted on a circuit board. Some are soldered, some are plug-in. And then you've got an external keyboard. Is that a Radio Shack, a TS?
No, that's Apple One.
Oh, Apple One. That's the Apple One. Okay, yeah. And then we used to have a cassette player, a tape cassette player, just like the audio version. And that's how you would store some of your data.
Yeah.
Something.
Yep. I had a TRS-80 computer, and that's how I did my little basic code and then recorded it.
You know, when I first started working for digital, it was about paper tape too. Do you guys remember that fanfold tape?
Yes.
And
it's been a while.
Yeah, and then you had a teletype. This was a mechanical monstrosity. It was like a gigantic tape, a gigantic typewriter. And to repair those, we used to have to go out and fix those things. You knew that your clothes were going to get greasy and dirty and stained. But the quickest fix typically was you took a can of oil and you just sprayed it inside that teletype, and that cleaned up everything. So many mechanical linkages and But off to the side of a teletype was a paper tape reader. And it was a punch and reader combination. So back then, to get the first boot started, it was hexadecimal code. So you actually had to think in base 16. And by typing in certain codes, you would create this paper tape pre-boot loader, and that would then boot up the rest of the machine.
Wow.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But all of the big mainframes back then used to have keyboards on the front, or I should say switches. The keyboard was in a dump terminal behind you. And these switches actually were direct access to the hexadecimal, the code or the computer itself.
Right, what we would call the BIOS today, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we had little tricks. One of the things we would do was like 32 switches, and by typing in hexadecimal code, you could get the LEDs, because there was an LED above every switch. You could get it to go in like this and back out.
Like KIT.
Customers love that. Yeah. The good old days.
Yes, that's Knight Rider for those of you uninitiated people.
Good old David Hasselhoff himself.
So tell me something, Pete. So you create amazing AI images like is behind us here.
Right.
And I've just noticed I have not been able to get precise like you have. I mean, these are pretty impressive.
Let me give you a perspective here. We were using Midjourney, which is an image generator. There's DALL-E, which is OpenAI. Midjourney, I don't know who makes that. Jesse, is that OpenAI as well? Midjourney?
No, Midjourney is its own thing.
It's its own thing. All right. Now, about 2 months ago or so, ChatGPT suddenly said, okay, we can now we can render images.
Okay.
So we try both. And what we found with ChatGPT, unlike Midjourney, you tell Midjourney, give me a poster board that has certain text written on it, and it would just present gibberish, complete gibberish. It just didn't understand language, it seemed.
Okay.
Or typing it out. Whereas ChatGPT-4 actually would, if you said, show me a Tesla factory, you'd see TESLA on the front of the factory. It spoke English.
Right.
Or it understand words. This particular image here was a ChatGPT-4 image, which you would think would have been better than Midjourney, which would have just jumbled those characters. But the word cabling had 2 L's in it. So I had to use Photoshop, and if you notice, there's a bigger gap between data and cabling than
Right.
cabling and history. So it's not quite perfect yet. Sometimes I just, want to tell, talk to it and say, "You are really dumb," and see if it will improve.
You misspelled cabling.
Right.
That's its human element, right?
Yeah. But it does a much better job of following your prompt instructions. In this case, I said, show us create a new studio with the history of data cabling behind it. And it went back a little bit too far. I mean, we're going back a century here, it looks like, with those old telephones and, switches and all that.
Well, we got guys in funny outfits in the upper left there, so I don't know if
Yeah.
yeah.
Look at that.
But the good part about AI is you can say, try again, and it will remember what you asked it the first time and then
Right.
do exactly what you said.
Right. I had it write something for me over the weekend, and it took about 6 times of telling it, okay, remove this word from your from what you've used, or shorten it up by 50 words or whatever. But as I kept interacting with what it was giving me, it finally gave me exactly what I wanted. So you have to be specific, but it will do exactly what you say. So
Sure.
Garbage in, garbage out. If you give it a general prompt and then you start getting precise and saying, okay, remove this, add this, it will do all that. It's pretty amazing. I know that's on the textual side, but I've never been able to get an image. The stuff you put up here every week,
Yeah,
is
amazing.
amazing. Yeah, it really is great stuff because it shows the breadth of what it can do.
Its capabilities.
Briefly, Pete, you talked and spoke about what AI can do for us as team members. How are you looking at using AI from a managerial point of view internally in business?
Well, the call centers that we have here, for example, we are growing the staff again, and what we're looking at AI for is to provide training.
Right.
AI can certainly do certain levels of training, and as we continue to utilize it, a knowledge base, a personalized GPT program for the new account managers is going to take a lot of load off of both you guys, who are also training new people, and of course management. There are a lot of concerns that AI is going to take away jobs. And yeah, certain jobs, without a doubt. I mean, I tell this story often, but I'm going to tell it on this podcast. Every Sunday morning, I go to Starbucks, and it's my only coffee for the week. And anyway, I drive down there at like 6:30 in the morning before I come up to the office to do some work. And 50% of the time, I kid you not, they get my order wrong. And I always order the same damn thing. Iced, breve, venti, latte with 4 pumps of vanilla.
Yeah.
Part of the problem is nobody wants to be working at 6:30 a.m. Sunday morning. So I get that. The second problem is they used to have a stable staff. In fact, there were some women behind the counter that were there at one point, like years ago, for 6 months or more. Nowadays, every other Sunday I go there, there's new staff. And they're confused about, and they don't remember me, in other words.
Right.
But 50% of the time getting it wrong, I mean, come on, it's not that hard. And they have to type it in the screen and show it. So I check that to make sure that what I vocalized is actually showing up on the screen. But when I get up there, they give me a hot coffee instead of ice. They don't have they don't have breve, which means it's all Italian, by the way. If they made it English, it'd probably be a lot easier. I want a large with
right.
half and half, you know. That's part of the problem, I think. None of them speak Italian. But yeah, they always get it wrong. So where I'm excited, the reason I'm telling you guys all this is there are automated fast food stations starting to pop up. McDonald's has the first one in Texas. I was reading just a couple days ago, there's some other fast food joints that are starting to do this. The machines are much better at this than we are. They don't have memory problems. You know, and once they do a verification, it's stuck in their memory bank, and you're going to get exactly that because the machine is going to follow a very strict process. So I'm looking forward to the mechanization. Now, what will we do with these people that don't want to work at 6:30 Sunday morning that are in fast food? Well, maybe, just maybe, it will motivate them to go to college, get an education, and go for a better job.
Well, you know, a lot of the concerns came out when, you know, the evolution of the automobile and going to fuel injectors, right? And where were the carburetor guys going to go? Right. Remember? Because there were shops that all they did was carburetors, carburetor rebuilds, you know, and all that. Where was that going to go?
Yeah.
Right? But somehow everybody survived. Right.
They moved into transmissions or whatever,
Right.
which
Or
are
they-
equally as complicated, or maybe even more so. You know,
Or they learned the fuel injectors and they went to school on that and, you know, became highly skilled technicians, right? So
Adaptation is the key word.
right, exactly. And, you know, we can't fear the change because really there's an opportunity to learn from it, number one, and expand who we are, is right? Because every opportunity just creates that from a personal standpoint anyway, all I can say is that I enjoy things changing because it expands my usefulness. I think I don't look at it like, oh, I knew how to do that really well and now it's gone. No, now I know how to do these 10 things, not just this one thing, right?
I think if most people really reflect back on their life, they will find that their most enjoyable portions of their life is when they were growing, expanding, learning new things, and able to utilize the results of all of that commitment to learning something.
Right.
It's when we get stagnant, you know, like this thing about retirement. People ask me, you're 72, how come you're not retiring? Well, what the hell would I do? Garden? Hang out with my wife 24/7? That's not possible. You know, we don't get along that well. So I really enjoy having a busy day and having all of this new stuff that you constantly can get involved in and juggle and have fun with. So yeah, I highly recommend embrace new technology, learn new things. Always have a strong sense of purpose in your life as a result of that. And, you know, it's a natural tendency for us to fear the unknown. It's instinctive. It goes back to our caveman days. But it doesn't apply anymore in this day and age. And again, if you're worried about AI killing humans and wiping out this civilization or mankind, these are smart people, smart entities, or whatever you want to call them.
Right.
You know, this is the kind of intelligence that we attribute to the deities, to God. They're smarter than us. It's kind of like the analogy I give is, we've made such a mess of this planet for the last few thousand years, and it's not getting any better. Have you noticed that?
Right.
Yeah.
We're still killing people for senseless reasons.
Right.
Right?
No, very true.
And it's like the kids have been running the planet, and the parents have a chance to come in now, the AI overlords, and they're going to be motivated to put this back on track. So anyway, that's my take on it, and I'm looking forward to it.
So one last question for you.
Sure.
Do you think that all of this progression and coming up on AI is a direct result of the alien crash at Roswell?
You know, some people think that, yeah. And I think what you're really asking, are we really smart enough to have evolved something like this? Right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
That's a fair
right,
question.
right.
I get that. But, you know, to some degree, I think that AI is at a point where it's actually educating and training itself. People are terrified of that concept because now we have reached potentially a level of sentience where it doesn't need our inputs anymore. And the simplest form of getting your head around that is look at all of the data that's available on the planet. AI is tapped into all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not feeding it directly anymore. It's doing that quite well by itself.
Yep. I agree.
There were these two AI programs that at one point actually developed their own language. Did you guys?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this
Yes,
was
I
early
heard
this
about
year.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, that's that's what we're talking about. So anyway, that's my take on
And
it.
AI knows Klingon, so we
right.
know that. Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
yeah,
Take us
we
out.
just want to thank you all for joining us today for Gruber Wired Hour. In this case, Gruber Wired Hour in 5 minutes. And this is our 10th episode. We want to thank Pete Gruber for being here and really sharing some great stuff. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And we thank you for being a part of what we're doing here at Gruber Wired Hour.
I personally want to thank you guys that have made a commitment to this show. And every week you're plugging in there and you're gathering information. This is a lot of work. I know I do this for the other podcasts.
Right.
So I want to thank both of you personally for, making this show what it is.
Well, thank you,
Our
Pete.
pleasure, yes. And thank you for, I'll tell you, if you haven't watched the shorts that Pete does when he's walking through the comm area, well, any of the shorts for the different channels, but especially the comm area, those are really interesting. You want to get a behind the scenes look at Gruber Communications and the quality of the effort that goes on here for our customers. Please check out those shorts. There's at least 10 of them that are new every week. And I think one of them that you did last week has over 8,000 views so
Yeah.
far.
Not that much?
Yeah.
The goal with those is to edify our customers, the people interested in our business, and show them what goes on behind the scenes. I find it fascinating how to put fiber cables together.
Sure.
And what is fiber? How does that tiny little strand, the thickness of human hair, actually transmit invisible light?
Yeah.
There's on Facebook, one of my favorite ones is they have short videos, how things are made. Like, how's an Oreo cookie made?
Right.
Well, you eat the thing all the time, but you have no idea how they process this thing, how they make it.
Right.
So anyway, that's the goal with the shorts. Those of you interested, check out the Gruber Communications channel, and we'll continue to show you things that are going on underneath the hood.
Thank you once again. Just quick teaser. Next week, we will be having Gil Maris from D&G Office Equipment back on with us.
Yes.
Had a great time with them on the last podcast we did. So that's good stuff coming up next week. Thank you again.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.